So the TLDR in this paper is the transaction fee mechanism is broke across a vast swath of the very least other businesses, but we've just heavily as the Ethereum maxi myself, we've sort of invested in layer twos for scaling like aggressively to the point of I think maybe we're a little bit off balance to the point of like we're relying on these optimistic mechanisms. We're relying on potentially ZK proving systems. And the sort of core of this paper is we've got two separate attacks that are like practical, can do them today on a series of layer twos that begins right out. And it all kind of stems from the transaction lifecycle. So you jump with the rollup, you take your transactions, put them in the sequencer sequence them, you submit batches to level one. And sometimes there's a prover involved. My personal area of expertise is in tracing and evaluating your knowledge virtual machine indentations. So I can speak to that mostly. There's also the DA saturation attack, which is probably the more serious one. Because we've like over-indexed on this like crazy DA market environment. You've got Celestia, you've got KL1. You could basically starve a layer 2 all of its TA block space or DA block space for a particular batch for a period of time, to the point of you can actually create a denial of service stack, which is not a great situation, not a good look for global financial system. The second attack that we have discovered here and in the paper we profile in detail is the proof or kill rate. And that's what we've had this force is to kind of draw attention to the fact that it's very easy to construct a malicious transaction in user land that basically causes the proof to break entirely. So depending on the specific virtual machine we're using, you get out of memory or you just end up with cycles. Cycle count is so high that real-time proving is pop speed. Even if your sharding continuation was flat. And I don't know, I'd love to just kind of open this up to questions because I wrote a monologue. So anybody got any kind of thoughts about that? Like, what if I told you all the layer 2s are broken and I could stop them, for a couple hours?
I just wanted to know a bit more on the DA saturation attack. Yeah, can we expand that ever?
No, I can't. Yeah. So the contents of that specific attack and the details therein are embargoed until 20th. So I can only talk about proof of killer shit.
Is there like a general, roughy thing that you can know?
Yeah, well,
Or generally, why is it forward? Like, is it?
Well, it's embargoed because it affects existing systems that are live today. So through the course of this Readings paper, we've actually gone through a vision loss stover process. And this is like inactive on its own USB partial.
So when you say you could stop all twos, you mean you could stop them once? Shit.
No comment. Yeah, there's at least two that are that I would consider this a mean user.
And when you say sorry, because I'm worried on our fast movie. And because you mentioned that ZK Sync Vira style like ZK Stack sounds to be important to somewhat more robust ones because our most Ethereum production ones are ZK Stack.
So there are ways that you can address this specifically in pricing blobs and blobs pricing transactions that create blobs and expand more for on a blob store. And I'm pretty sure Zendera is one of the ones that basically has like an exponential increase. Like as blob space is starved, the price for it increases. Therefore, I think the way you use the paper is a capital constrained actor cannot actually take advantage of that. But in other rollups, that's not the case.
Yeah, I think we face like a huge amount of developer problems because it being non-standard in terms of EB, but this is where none of this is justified.
Yeah, it's beneficial. So like,
Sonny's not about it. I was just gonna ask and stop me if I say too much, but like, are these attack vectors really just like attack vectors for proof of networks, or is this for just any ZK.
So we've got like the data availability thing, and like let's just kind of like step away from that.
Yeah.
I'm happy to talk to you off camera about that. But the thing with succinct and verifiable computation is it costs, like, you've got the Ethereum virtual machine or just any sort of virtual machine or on chain where transaction space and call data costs gas, which is effectively money. And then you've got this ZKVM or ZK prover that complexity costs instructions, which complexity costs cycles, and cycles cost time. So now you've got a mismatch in, okay, I can actually create a transaction that is incredibly cheap, but it takes a lot of time to prove. And when we're talking about alignment system, that's kind of a problem.
I mean, I can vouch for, like, customers who actually at the sequencer level start censoring because they know that the prover payload is getting.
Exactly.
Yeah, this 100% is how these are built right now. Yeah.
Yeah, and like you literally just simulate every single transaction to decide, okay, how many prover cycles is this going to take, and then you just end up with censorship.
And so they'll just reject the transaction if it takes too many cycles.
That would be a smart way to do it. It's a naive approach, but it's a way to mitigate a prover killer style attack.
There's some other things you could do too. Like for instance, with the BN pairings, it's like there's particularly bad formulations of that. Whereas like almost everything's only really doing, you usually only need 1 or 2 pairings per transaction to really do something. But technically you could do a loop of a bunch of them. So like there's other ways that specific constrained this too. I know in CKEDF there was constraints at BN pairings and ModX.
For someone who doesn't know what BN pairings are,
the elliptic curve calculations.
Yeah.
Like if you're doing multiplications.
yeah,
Those cost a lot more to do under BN 256 than most. That the gas cost for that isn't at all associated with the prover type cost, because you have a 256-bit block that you're doing an elliptic curve pairing on, and you're trying to do this in like a 32-bit field simulated math calculation under ZK, and it just explodes in terms of complexity.
Yeah, and like these systems were built in a time where like ZKVM or ZK proving was like only a twinkle in like Vitalik's eye. And like the people who were building these systems weren't necessarily building, for example, the gas scheduler was not designed with provers in there. So you can end up with, I think jump test actually, like just
Jump test is very
simple jumps, like that costs 1 gas and then it's like 1,000 cycles or something. Yeah, in the virtual machine. So like the reason I love the prover killer attack in particular is because it's so simple to actually execute and it's so simple to discover, because all you have to do is profile the EVM. So what we did in this paper is we took a smart contract that I wrote in Unaligned and a business right pure assembly, can loop over individual opcodes until the gas lit. And then you execute that inside of ZKVM, count cycles, and then you get a pretty good understanding of, okay, this particular opcode takes this many cycles. And that's the basic of, okay, now I can starve this prover of resources. Where I think things will go in the next installments of this series of papers, because there's going to be at least 2, if not probably more, is all of the different VMs that you could potentially run ref inside of have different memory arguments. They've got different,
costs of hashing.
exactly,
Yeah.
like the different constraint systems, all of which have material effects on, for example, like I could write a smart contract that just accesses memory a bunch in like weird ways. And like the worst case scenario, you go to this side of memory, go on this side of memory, move things around, and that could still cost something from a gas perspective, but the end result is a prover exhaustible. And until like my personal take on kind of like what this means, just is we really need to be cautious when we're just introducing, these virtual machines to proving layer 1 and then relying on them. Vitalik literally tweeted like 2 hours ago about how we need to get to a 1-hour exit window for optimistic rollups. Ideally a 12-second rollup with exit window.
Trivial to produce inputs that would cause that to happen in one transaction.
It's
to miss that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the idea here of just like, okay, we're going whole hog into zkVM lanes, I think is really exciting, but it's also really used.
Is this like I know? Does the paper discuss like mitigations?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and like, is this something that can be like once it's published, then every other approver network and like to mitigate, or is this something that like it's like a game of whack-a-mole where somebody's always going to be finding new ways to basically do a DOS? You know?
Yeah, the simple answer is it's a system engineering problem. That was all Guy said earlier with that. That was pretty funny. And then censor, kind of a core issue. Like, we need to change the gas schedule so that things are cheaper or more expensive.
Okay, so it's more of a change on the blockchain side rather than on the approver network side.
Yeah, I think so. Sorry, my take is like, all the rollup kits actually know this. Like, they have done all the profiling. They know which ones passed a lot of gas, and generally because they want to be EM compatible, and this is my take, I've done around it. But generally because they want to be EM compatible, they were more figured with gas pricing. But gas pricing was essentially meant to be this: that how much time does it take for a validator to actually validate this instruction set. And in the rollup sense, this validator is actually, like someone is just creating these tracers and someone else is actually going ahead and generating these proofs. So you can think of this validator being the prover itself. So ideally, you should actually create this entire thing depending on the gas profiling that you have created on the rollup. But the rollups don't want to do that because then the entire tooling breaks. So why I mentioned ZK-Sync is because to just deploy on ZK-Sync, you need to now have a fork of a hard hat. You need to
Fork of Foundry.
for a fork of Foundry, you need to have a different tenderly endpoint. You know all of, like, many people know all of this, right? So they take developer experience much more seriously than, because it's very hard there to convince a guy to just deploy it on base. That doesn't work exactly like that. And
Very helpful. So there's another like area to this problem too, which is like depending upon the prover. So like depending upon which prover you're talking about, I won't name them, but like some will like hard run out of memory. Some can be like continuation style, like scale very, very widely. Sometimes those will run out of resources because all of a sudden Amazon will just say no more GPUs for you. And sometimes you can do it. And so like usually like there's a bit of like, we're going to subsidize the developer experience by taking the cost. But the worst case cost of all of them is that the proof cannot be generated.
all ZKVMs.
In all ZKVM. Well, I guess in risk zero, you can always generate the proof. It just might be very, very expensive. The same in, right?
Let's say we have like culinary gas, but it's like how many cycles can this go on chance? That's a good question. I haven't profiled that poll. 10 to Billy.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it's okay. But so it's like that's fine.
That's fine if you're operating a decentralized Uber network. My personal argument is I think I like the world where we run the validator rather than I. And I think that if we need to generate a proof of that, I'm saying this as I run about this prover this week. So I'm fully on your side here. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
No. I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, and in this case, it's like the real problem is like in the boundless case, or even in the SP1 case, like it's not the it's actually a cost problem for the rollups more than this like probably blindness problem.
Yeah. So I think someone was saying that on the kind of variable that prefers, and like when the operator fee mechanism was made, I can paint with that because paint that it could be blob bits that way. It's not rid of the gas and under when it rollback cycle. Yeah, you have the operator. What is the operator? Yeah, this is just some additional fee you pay per gas that is supposed to get towards coming moving. But is that no? Kalua. Yeah, Kalua. No, so this was like this comes from OPSec. Yeah, like it's from OPSec. Kailua uses Kona, which covers obese type. So there's something rule specific guy that says Kona, which is obese this.
That was added like October, November, Austria. And the issue is like what virtual machine or what prover backend are you actually using, because the pricing for that could be wildly different dependent. use of zeros to center, use this, pico, whatever.
Does the author's condition know your work?
I hope we really don't publish this video till after the 20th. Yes, good. Yeah, there were. There were, and there's active work to the user.
So I have a question because I am surprised that you haven't found rate limits on the Web 2 level, like per IP, right? And you answered this question, or are you talking about for? Because I mean, every sequencer is centralized, right? And I guess they should enforce some rate limits per IP. So if they see that you are sending 1,000 transactions per second or whatever, right? They will block.
Well, so the interesting thing about this is, so they all do this to some level.
They do. Okay.
Yeah.
Isn't that the bad way to fault you? Because it's not the proper way.
It's a fine mitigation. It's a bind mitigation.
I'm surprised to. I mean, have you found this in every layer 2?
So you're asking me, have I attacked multiple existing incumbent layer 2s and got blocked? No, because that would be by practice. This is a fear. This is a theory. This is a paper.
Well, no, that's not bad. You just think about it.
Yeah. The interesting thing here is you don't need a lot of requests, and you would do it in one contract with one call.
Only with that.
Okay. Yeah. So, like, as a person that worked on this, like, we were blocking particular, like, you can't do a certain number of pairings, in order to like reduce that so that at least it's parallelizable on a transaction.
Oh,
Yeah, stuff like that.
Why is it a rate limit back, or even a size limit? But what's wrong with that?
I would say that from a purist perspective, we'll claim decentralization theater here, so we shouldn't.
We should move our experiential number.
There's the author to find mitigation, but the end result is that you now censor something, or you censor the transaction that is valid from a spectrum.
I have an answer for you there, which is that if you have so in all of these systems, you want forced transactions. Well, maybe. In some of these systems, you want the ability to do forced transactions. So you have censorship-resistant transaction processing at the L2 level. And if you do forced transactions, if you enable forced transactions and you're only solving this problem by censoring at the RPC level, not at the execution level, then you run into the problem of a forced transaction that the layer 2 must include in order to reach finality is no longer provable, that you've halted the chain. Which is no bueno.
I think maybe a better question is, instead of asking, well, can you just block it? I think a better question is, well, why would you want to do this in the first place? And I don't even necessarily have a strong answer for that. Like, why would you want to halt the blockchain? I think you need to combine it with potentially, maybe an Oracle vulnerability, or, there's got to be some reason for the state being halted to be advantageous to you. And we really don't cover that at all in the paper, because it's kind of like, it's a whole bad plush.
Yeah.
Their situation, however, may be on a zero knowledge layer 2. What if the lab that's running the sequencer is subsidizing all proof generation? So maybe I just want to drain their decent dollars. That seems like a more relevant and something you should be concerning to do labs that are kind of work.
It is. They're delegating a member to the also ran on arbitrary. Yeah. Okay.
I can prove it. Yeah. No, that's. I've worked at the rubber code base sometimes. Straight. I met a team last year that wanted to get into like ZK arbitrage. Well, yeah. It was an interesting conversation, but I don't know what came out of it.
Yeah. I think that's what's so interesting about all this, is that it's a novel interaction between two relatively simple systems that creates this like chaotic, ridiculous system that's kind of hard to predict because it's purely agent driven.
I have a question, because I have been following this, but do we have a estimated, or do we have any do we have like an estimated better gas schedule given the ZKVMs and systems that are currently used? That best targeted.
Alarming the idea right now. The thing I should have plugged earlier is Prooflab was got a grant from the Ethereum Foundation to submit these malicious transactions on chain, and to basically, if you haven't heard of EatProofs, you should check out AgriProofs. It's a condition from the Foundation to get teams like Zero to basically submit proofs of correct Ethereum block execution. And so we can see publicly how long did it take, etc. And my goal is to decrease the standard deviation by at least 1 or 2.
It was like, God damn.
Well, what's so funny? I'm missing out on like what?
Because right now, the average time it takes to approve a block is sub-minute, I'm pretty sure. And I think if I start submitting, call it 1 every 100 blocks or 1 every 1,000 blocks, like I'll probably decrease the execution time. But
Yeah, you kind of ruined the narrative.
yeah, it's not like real-time proving this week. It's like real-time proving 2 hours. And this can all be mitigated by changing the gas schedule. Hope you're listening to this or to flash it. Change the gas schedule.
I think other some putting with your number, they profile the median block in terms of gas. And if we can hit those instructions in that block, then suddenly that they're benchmarkable for us.
Yeah, they have to prove it. Yeah, exactly.
Not that I reached back.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like something.
Yeah, we're just pointing at you because you're the only ZK person. Wait a bit.
You can point to me too. I was working on this at Polygon before.
You can also point to me too. We're ZKBMs as well.
Yeah, it's a well-known problem that we need to do it. I just haven't actually seen any gas schedule adjustments that, the real problem here is a coordination problem, which is that I've been arguing for changing the gas schedule for a long time, but it's very difficult to do it on your own here because it puts you at a bit of a disadvantage. And it's just much better if we all come together and at least start moving things in the right direction. There's also just questions of do we need these opcodes anymore? For some cases, especially if we can do them off chain, maybe you would do them off chain, or is there is there a better way to approach the problem given this, right? Because currently this EVM is optimized basically for CPUs, and if we're optimizing it for ZK EVMs, it's a different. For ZK VMs, it's a different target.
Yeah, it's funny because the point you brought up earlier about how the gas schedule was just purely ossified by momentum. That was something I had not considered at all. When I kind of charged into this and was reading paper the first time, I was like, this has got to be easy to change, but it makes sense that it's just a pure coordination problem.
Yeah. By the way, on this topic, one of the things that we're trying to do at Say is to make Foundry more pluggable so that it's easier to do things like this per chain, so that users of these tools have a better way to do it. So that's one way, but it's it actually requires this multi-pronged approach of changing the gas schedule, having Vitalik talk about so people trust it, changing the tools, making sure hard hat work, having Tenderly update stuff, all of that all together.
Amazing, you can make Foundry actually compute your transitions. It doesn't do that. When you generate blocks, it's just 0 roots all the way through. I had to actually change that. My EVM will data.
Oh, that's it.
You use Foundry locally, yeah, but
Can you change the gas cost of every opcode with Foundry? Is
in the EVM implementation,
Yes.
I don't know if you can via config. You definitely can in code.
but we forget it quick without forking the
Right. So there's another great example of it. Yeah.
I wrote tips.
Right.
So it's easy.
So one question, in order to perform this attack, do you have to fill the whole block, or you don't need to fill the?
no.
Right.
So you basically you can make the transaction take as much gas as you want.
Right.
I'm most interested in the ones that fill up the whole block, obviously. But there's no reason. Literally the handle contract is the opcode of the attack you want to run and the number of conditions.
Right.
And the data generates total gas.
I'm asking because I was trying to look at this from a game theory perspective, right? So if you have to fill the block, then the gas price will go up, right? So then me as a user will pay a bit more. So then your attack is going to get more expensive, and it's not going to be 40 bucks per block, but it's going to be way more, right?
Yeah.
So in this case, it's going to be way harder to attack.
Yeah. And this the bulk of the paper in terms of meditations for the various stacks that we discuss has largely to do with multi-dimensional transaction theming, because you need to take into account, for example, how full is the block. how much do we think simulate is going to take to cost to prove? You've got DA, you've got I think those are the top three. We've got the actual call data you're paying for. You got the prover cost. We've got settlement, and then you've got DA. And the gas code will need to take all of these things into account, or else it doesn't get exponentially more expensive as you attack it more. Right, and that's the point of the paper. The point of the paper is that we can literally take like 1.2 ETH and then halt layer 2.
A bit of a different perspective there is Arbitrum Orbit Stack does at least on the DA and the execution separately, and it is such a mess to work with it when you are just developing stuff.
Yeah, it's a mess to work with it, but it ends up being more secure. It's just duplicates, yeah.
Again, that's why I'm saying it's a DevX versus security trade-off sometimes. It's not a black and white. Why did you do it?
That's a really great point. I've been talking about this a lot the last couple weeks, and like I'm gonna steal that. Point.
Yeah, well, and the point, and I always like to talk about the market forces here, and the market forces for every one of these L2s to just please God have somebody develop an application on me, and so this is the thing, which it's difficult to make that DevX tree off.
And see something. How did the L2s react when you started talking to them about these vulnerabilities or new type of attacks? Yeah, like I'm just curious because Kubernetes were first mentioned, I think, with regards to Kubernetes.
I think literally he coined it.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
So like,
It's actually the guy for Immutable and me. Yeah,
really? Oh, nice. Because like proving ethereal, it's not highly very easy. But we already have validated norms out there who actually can be able to buy these apps today, and not like some theoretical, so practical.
The reason I started working, so by the way, we knew this on ZKABM, and the reason that I started working on it was because we were trying to Vitalik's goal is to have everybody be at type, whatever it is, type stage set they or one category 7 hurricane. And in order to do that, you need to turn on forced transactions. And so forced transactions actually really exacerbate this problem, especially under like a ZKBM that the rollup as it operated had strict memory limits because of the way that Sprue was written back in the day. So solving this on an execution level is really, really important. And that's part of the reason why we were dealing with it for a long time. So I don't know what their response was, but I would expect everybody was like, oh, I see that, but then was maybe surprised at the particular attack. Because in some cases, it's like, wait, really? Like, even if you benchmarked it, you might not realize how easy achieve it would be.
Yeah. The math specifically to prove that this is even possible is like, it's like things of 2 beings. So like, it's kind of hard to understand initially. And I think that is the average response that they've got was just like talking about. And like, once somebody sits down and actually like traces through it, it's like kind of an eyes wide new, like, oh crap kind of thing, I think. And I think that's probably the key phase that I saw.
It's like one of the stages of grief. Like,
Yeah, but it's organizational. It's not unusual. It's individual guy. Yeah, like these organizations are basically diametrically opposed to even at these. So,
My blacklisting myself by saying.
yeah. I actually kind of wonder, by the way, it's like, this is back to the previous conversation. This is a reason to build a VM that for your app. It's a reason to build an application where you understand the constraints of your actual execution, STF, and everything you need, so that you can design, so you can optimize for this problem.
Yeah.
Custom, rollups.
I think if I was building one of these systems and somebody like me came and told me that, hey, this is a problem, like, and I didn't think about this, the design of the system with this in mind from first principles, I'd be like, God damn. Like, because you really have to think of this, like, with ZK proving in mind from the first opcode, basically. And I think that's a really big point. Just like when you're building verifiable systems, like if you have a really close handle on your virtual machine and your programming environment, compiler, like pretty much all of the
Data formats, hashing choices.
I think just to add, like, I think there are ZKVMs too did that, like Margin, for example, actually ground up, started from assembly level, opcode level, optimization, and thinking about ZKs, preview, and so on. Again, same thing. TEDx is the problem on adoption. That's one. Only one. Second is even on a sovereign SDK, which has custom, they know the rules and all of that. It is not that it is impossible to do a counter this kind of an attack, because they want to show that their transactions are super low fees. Now, the moment you start abusing the system, no matter what STF you present, there would be one step transition which takes a lot of fees. And then if you abuse that transition function many times, so for example, you have games we have glitches, right? That will go from here to here, it crashes, right? You do that many times, you can show that it is no longer a very
Order replaces are the most expensive operation, so therefore
It's abused by putting the test components many times and show that this is your worst case and your transactions is just fired up. So it is the same across the board. It's an economic curve.
You're saying there's always one operation which is cost a lot.
There is always the bureaucracy order, then the last transaction is the worst, man. And I can probably, if you have duals style contract deployment functionality, then you can always edit.
So you can decrease the cost of this, but you cannot.
I mean, it's like saying like the
Way increase the cost. Still a valid operation.
valid operation bit. It's like saying like the last purge of a trade is bad, so I don't bore you, but that it always be a long one.
It should just be prohibitively expensive. It shouldn't be like outrageously expensive. It should be cheap. Right now, these cheap costing. Yeah.
So I'm not aware if it puzzled as another gas schedule. Is there a one-size-fits-all schedule, you think? Yeah.
No. I'm like,
I mean, not unless we like end up using 2 known virtual machines, and that's it.
exactly. Like you have to build it with if you want it to fit, you need to build it with respect to a specific system.
And then even that, like you got
like the party where I'm watching the SPI jazz. So I want to do like Capper key. It's shake it.
But I'm actually curious about your take here that when we do profiles of the send instruction site in SD1 with the pickup label for the very partners, a cycle count is very different. So, for example, if we are to use this kind of a gas pretty reliable mode of the proposed arrays, then how do we do this kind of Pico versus Residual versus SP1, like right with date and guys, right? So E and something there.
It's not about again, like the systems are kind of different. Yeah, the systems are kind of different. So the way we accelerate certain orthographic operations is different from how SP1 does it. The way our family works is different from the other users that you have. And those differences are always either because, for example, we chose that our considerations could going here on bit, though that's not the case in SP1. And that's what I was asking. Is there a one-size-fits-all approach that also balance this?
It's not just a BME, it's also a pivot technology pin as well.
Here's me, we're doing this proof of verifiable word thing, which essentially means you're able to meter how many cycles appears inside the Z-gate. And when I thought about this problem, I think the only approach is probably if you're only using one prover, using multiple at the same time, there's no up to some results. But the only approach I think works is that you should be able to meter your BKBS like Quispers to verify the word, and then charge transactions based on that meter. Then you don't even have to worry about the gas edge.
Yeah, and that's generally why I like CypherCount as like a good proxy for that. Because like I think the unifying thing here is just like how much time did it take and how many dollars did I pay Jeff Bezos for the privilege of using BKBs to generate that proof?
So we'll like if I have practically think about this. So today the transaction flow is I go to a simulator, the simulator gives me the gas count. generally that's what it's done, right? And then I put a gas fee and priority fee, paste query, so on, and then send it to the RPC. Are you guys saying that the priority fee, the operator fee style mechanism here, and also there's a priority for separate TDD, and the simulator is your ZKVN or simulation that you've been.
Yeah, it's then just from the executor. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm asking for, is like you execute it either locally or at the EC side. And then, maybe like you already had to decide that your gas limit is on a transaction. So I think overpaying for Uber costs, like, I think it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, makes sense. So that would be the ideal kind of proposal where there's a theme through, but which query is there, what this side is right now.
Yeah, I would hesitate to call it the ideal one, but like it's the naive one that gets us moving forward to the point where these things are no longer help. And like that's it. Like it's
The thing with the operator fee is the user doesn't really get to say how much they're willing to pay for reality. I mean, they just put in a hex, and then just like the D8 fees,
so decided by a trade. So a Seam Wizard just decides how much it costs. Yeah.
It's based on gas, essentially. He's multiplied by the gas used, and then you're assuming the gas corresponds to seconds, which is probably it does not.
Yeah. So operator pretty. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. The assumption right now is that gas corresponds to brew cycles, and that's definitely not true. Ideally, it's at the very least like linear equality, some whatever. But if you do all the river filler stuff,
And then it's not. Yeah, by the way, there's even another version of this problem, which is like an SP1 cycles doesn't respond to time either. Because when you precompile out like a hash, that it won't do
this one cycle, yeah.
But it's like, it's a half.
Swann,
Proving gas takes in that into it. So that's what proving gas takes.
Just a
Can you just explain that? Why is that not wall zone counted?
This is just a detail of how they implemented certain things. So like when
Was like something that they made a decision to be.
Yeah. Basically, you could think about it like doing certain operations inside the VM is really expensive. So it's cheaper or it's more effective to like write a custom circuit to do it. And so how that works in SP1 is you do a syscall out where you're hitting a custom circuit. And that, in terms of cycles, is just one. So now what they did is they did a bunch of work to come up with this Patrick approver gas, which tries to take those into account. But then it matters about like that implementation of a thing, the hardware you're on, and etc. So it's just one of those niggly details that ends up like taking time in this discussion.
yeah.
It's like, God,
all right.
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah, I think we should, since we're all here, we might as well go into the hardest paper.
Yeah, no, not the hardest, but no. Well, firstly, thank you. Now, thank you all for your questions. I appreciate it.
Oh,
Yeah.